You're just sitting there eating fucking soup.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there. Let's talk about Ori since it came out. So I guess it's been a week, 1 week. No,
Yeah,
about
I think it's closer to 2 weeks.
yeah, about it's like 10 or 11 days. And I picked that up and played it, and I really like it. I know you have not had a chance to play it yet.
That's correct. I've watched some gameplay of it though.
It's a lot of fun. It's already like, I know we're only in March, but it is like, in my opinion, a game of the year like type game. Like, it is really freaking good.
And yeah, I've heard that a lot actually. A lot of people that have been playing it have really had a lot of good things to say about it. And even though I haven't played it from E3 last year, when they just kind of snuck it in
Yeah.
for like a 5-second clip, it was probably the most memorable game for me personally during the Microsoft conference there.
For sure. I can't remember anything else except for...
I mean, you got like Halo.
Yeah, but like I was trying to think of that other game, like, was it Dragonscape or something like RuneScape? It's not, wasn't RuneScape, but it was I don't know, we're getting off on a tangent, but yeah, it was the thing in Microsoft where I was like, I'm interested in that. That looks really good.
Yeah, it's weird too because I think other than, like Let's Players and streamers, I don't know that there's really been a big presence for the game as far as like marketing or anything.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
I was gonna say, I kind of, the E3 thing, it brought it up, and I was excited for it, and then I actually didn't really think about it again until like maybe the beginning of March or middle of February. I was like, what was that game? It was like Ori and something.
It just kind of came out,
and then I was like, oh shit, well, here it is. And so I went and picked it up, and been playing a lot of that. And it's it's really good if you like just platforming in general, Metroidvania type platforms and platforming, and it's
I
really
wish it wasn't that.
It's really hard, like,
oh yeah,
like real hard.
I mean, it looks like a very like high skill precision platformer. I mean, I love the art style and the music too. The music, from what I heard, is just
phenomenal.
stellar. That game's got amazing atmosphere, and it reminds me a lot of Fern Gully. I don't know if you...
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Fern Gully. A lot. But, I mean, it's just like Ori is just such a precious looking creature that just dies like thousands of times. Which is,
and it's so, yeah, and then when you like pause the game, like in the right hand corner, it's like, you've died this many times. Mm-hmm. It's just like, damn it.
I do love, I did see, because I said I watched gameplay of it, I did see the kind of like you pick like your checkpoint.
Yeah, that's probably
that's a really cool mechanic.
It's probably one of the most interesting like aspects of the game, where it's not like get to this place and there's a checkpoint, or get to this room and this is a save room. It's you really have to be strategic with it, because it takes up actual like value. You have these energy cells, and it takes up one energy cell to save a game. And so and then if you forget to save and then you die and you start over, and it's just like, oh my goodness, I have to do this all over again. Yeah. Or if you want to be like really strategic and you get through this like hard part, or a part you think it's hard, but you only got one life left, or one little heart. It's like, should I save here, and then I have to keep restarting with one heart? So you really have to think about what you're doing, and that really kind of fucked me over at one point in the game, because I did do that. I had like 2 hearts, and I saved, and then like what was coming next was insanely hard, and I just died like 300 times over and over and over again. And yeah, it's really good. I like it a lot. Like, good on Microsoft Studios, and I think it's Moon Studio, and it's a good game. I think anyone, obviously it's not a game for anyone. I think the marketing was maybe, like you said, it was very minimal marketing, but like, I think a lot of people may have went into this if they're not really familiar with like games and stuff, and it's just like, oh, this is a cute game for my kid or something. I haven't heard of that happening, but I could definitely see that.
I mean, I honestly had no idea what kind of game it was until people started actually playing it and I saw footage of it, because I don't recall like any gameplay from the Microsoft conference. And like I said, that was probably the only thing I'd seen of it until it came out. And so I wasn't expecting it. I would have been like, if it's an indie game, 90% chance it's going to be a platformer. But I didn't know it was going to be like a high precision, like Metroidvania style platformer that it turned out to be, which is cool because, you know, that's a style of game that doesn't really exist too much.
Most indie games are going to be probably platforming, but for it to be like this kind of Metroidvania, like very precise, and you have to be on with your skills and know what you're doing and when to use. Because in Ori, you have an array of abilities and skills that can make you traverse the world. So yeah, you have to be very precise and very on point. And but yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring that up, kind of like because my little cousin was watching me play. And she was just like, I want to, play. And I was like, you're here. And she just failed miserably.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was maybe a problem that people were going into.
But the thing is, like, I think back to when I was that age and, like, the bullshit that I put up with at that age to just, like, because you just, I don't know, you don't expect things to be better when you're that young. Like, me and my roommate were talking about Majora's Mask, which, just recently came back out on 3DS. And, we both consider that game one of the greatest games ever made. Like, we both love it. And it's our favorite from the Zelda franchise. But the switching around and selecting masks and, like, items and stuff, it's just terrible in that game. And they did nothing to fix it. But, like, I was like 12 years old playing that game. I didn't give a shit. I was just like, it's just, just frustrating because it's supposed to be frustrating, not because they just couldn't be bothered to actually give it like a proper, like, quick switch. So, I don't think that would be a problem for little kids. I think that would be a bigger problem for, like, our age group where, time is of the essence for us, and we can't be, we don't want to spend 3 hours just dying repeatedly over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. But it's a good game. The 17 people watching this, you should get
10 sips out of 10.
Yeah, I give it 9 sips out of 10. I think 10 sips out of 10 should be reserved for very special sips.
Witcher 3.
The Witcher 3 is an automatic 10 out of 10. Automatic.
I want everyone to know that's watching this. So, all 4 of you. Witcher 3 comes out. We're going to do a 7-hour podcast of just ejaculating over that game.
News to me, but I am in.
Because me and Cyrus both agree that Witcher 2 is the best game of all time. Only to be topped by
The Witcher 3.
Witcher 3. And maybe Bloodborne.
We'll see about Bloodborne. It's coming out
That's
this
my
week.
caveat, because my tits are fit to burst for that game.
But you linked an article this past weekend about The Witcher 3.
Let's please continue talking.
I mean, we'll just go into it. We're not going to talk a lot about it because I don't like building up like expectations for a game. But the fact that this article, and I forget who it was by, do you know the outlet?
It was. I pulled it from a NeoGAF thread, but it was a German outlet, one that I wasn't very too familiar with because they only publish in German. So it was translation of a German article, but apparently they got just pretty much full reign to do whatever they wanted with this pre-release version of The Witcher 3. And I had been deliberately avoiding stuff to try and keep the game off my radar because I just don't I was the same way about Mass Effect 3, and then I was just so disappointed when I beat that game. And so I've been trying to just just breathe, not think about it, just wait for it to come out. And then I read this article and I was like, well, fuck. The hype meter just cranked back up because
Oh,
And
Jesus.
the thing that really got me, other than the fact that they just had like nothing but praise, there's like really like for the most part everything is very polished, and there's just even like just side shit like hunting monsters or just like little bullshit side quests were just so fleshed out and really like felt like you were having impact. I was like, oh, because that I'm quality over quantity.
Yeah, for sure.
How I feel about stuff, and if they're going to do quantity and quality, well, that's very ambitious.
Well, yeah, go into the kind of like mic drop moment.
Yeah, but the thing that really got me was that they have completely gone away from, speaking of Mass Effect, the BioWare like good bad decision, and the thing about Witcher 2 is it was like bad decision, bad decision. You didn't really feel good with it.
Yeah.
Now it's just going to be you make a decision and you don't really know the consequences of it. You don't know if it was good or bad, and you may or may not even realize the full impact of that simple decision that it made. But over the course of a playthrough, they said that pretty much you can guarantee that you will never play that game the same way twice.
That is absolutely amazing.
Which is incredible if that's true. And that was like, if I was going to put a quote on my game for marketing, that was it right there.
There's the box quote. It was, like I'm like you, I haven't like really read that much stuff about it, but it was like late last year. It was somewhere around, you get the whole like 5 times as big as Skyrim or something like that. But the thing that got me was 36 different endings. That's 36 different endings. And that could even be revised down to 20. It's just like insane.
Yeah, it's such an ambitious thing that I have a hard time believing that it will deliver. But I've yet to hear anyone have anything bad to say about it.
That's what like same deal with me. Yeah, it's like, oh really? 36 different endings, like really? And then just like is it going to be a crap game? But like everything that we've read, which is very minimal, we'll both agree to, but everyone's just got praise, nothing but praise.
And apparently it is huge. Like, it is massive. So, I mean, May can't get here soon enough.
No, they cannot.
Alright, well.
Yeah, that's a little rant on Witcher. Like, when it gets closer, we'll be... it'll be starting to build around middle of May.
One more thing. Apparently, Geralt's beard grows over time.
Oh my, dude, that's awesome, dude. That's amazing. That was the latest delay. That was like, well, we need to grow this dude's beard over time in the game.
Like, it just will naturally just grow over time, which is just fucking amazing.
It's great, and we'll just continue on this kind of like release thing. Like, Hotline Miami 2 came out 2 weeks ago. None of us have played it. Neither of us have played it. It's a game that we've looked at playthroughs, and I own it, and I might be doing a playthrough on it, but we can't really talk about it because we haven't played it. So we missed that. And Battlefield Hardline came out last week, which I'm the bigger Battlefield fan out of both of us, but I think we both agree that we both enjoy the franchise, and we played a lot of Battlefield 3 and 4, and Hardline was just kind of a little bit of a disappointment, which I wasn't expecting much, to be honest with you, in the first place.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I mean, I've seen like beta footage of it. My roommate played a lot of the beta, and I mean, it looked like a variation of Battlefield with some cops and robbers element. I do love the fact that like at least the multiplayer side of it like does not take itself seriously whatsoever, but almost too far to a certain spectrum. And we've talked about this too. Like, I don't envy their position releasing a cops and robbers game with all the political issues that went down within the last year here in the United States. So that to have something like that come about mid-development cycle for that game had to have been a bit of a nightmare for Visceral and EA.
Yeah.
And I think it might have had a detrimental impact to that game overall. They could have done something with it. They could have really like made more interesting game types, really pushed the boundary with the single player, and they just didn't. And it's left a lot of people pretty mad and wishing it was just part of Battlefield 4's season pass.
Yeah, I mean it uses assets from Battlefield 4. It's like, the one thing that can be said about it that I've heard, like I haven't played it. This is all hearsay, but it runs very well.
I've heard it runs very well, but I don't think it looks as good as Battlefield 4, and I don't think it has the capability of looking as good as Battlefield.
But like that engine has been tried and true. Like it runs well, but they just they didn't like push any boundaries or anything with the cops and robbers type game. And so that was kind of a bit of a disappointment. Neither of us have played it. I don't think we have really any intentions of playing it.
I just feel really bad for Visceral, because that's a pretty talented studio that has kind of been.
Are they next on EA's chopping block?
I mean, it's not. They're on the downward spiral. I don't think they're maybe next in line.
They've had 2. Did they do Dead Space 3? They did, didn't they?
They did Dead Space 3.
That's not a very good game.
And pretty much, I'm pretty sure. I don't recall for sure, but I'm pretty sure EA said like, "Yep, that's the last one of those we're doing." So, they killed that studio's kind of like bread and butter franchise. The only thing I know of that they've done before that was Dante's Inferno, which was
like a surprisingly good game in my opinion.
It was an okay God of War clone that was
a lot.
Probably a bit too much on the shock and awe factor that it went for, but it wasn't a bad game for sure. And then they do Battlefield Hardline after having kind of a disappointing end to the Dead Space franchise. So it's not looking good for them, which is unfortunate because they are a talented studio overall, I think.
And we'll just go ahead and document what we kind of said a little bit before recording, but all these complaints and everything with the game, would it have been as big of an outlash or big of a crime, as it was if it was an expansion to Battlefield 4, a $25 to $30 instead of being a full retail release plus premium? You're talking about $120 game for the extended or the digital.
$120.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absurd.
But if it would have been a $30 expansion to Battlefield 4. I mean, I think you're probably looking at me probably picking it up at some point.
I think the reaction would have been way toned down to what it is. I mean, I wouldn't have. I think it would have been cool if they'd have done a free-to-play release of it. Again, you got to do it right, but I think if that game had been free-to-play, holy shit, that would have been like. I think that would have been a huge success for them overall if they just completely nixed the single player aspect of it and just did a free to play version of that. I think a lot of people would have bought into it a lot easier, and it'd probably gotten, it'd probably hit like the 8 out of 10 on the scale instead of kind of like the 6 out of 10 on the scale that it's kind of resonated.
That was definitely my impressions coming out of E3, because it was like another. I remember that as well with Ori. We're talking about a lot about E3, but during the EA's press conference, they were just like, "Hey, Battlefield Hardline beta right now, go sign up." And I was like, "Well, boom, let me go do that." And I enjoyed it. It was okay, but I came out of it and I was like, "That's a free to play game. That's what that is." And then as time went on and it was a full retail release, I was just like, "That's absurd."
Yeah,
I agree with everything you just said. Yeah.
Now, I mean, Battlefield also, especially the last few years, does have a track record of being kind of meh on release, and then several months down the road, it's kind of like the real, true game you were hoping to get initially. So
you're talking about Battlefield games in
general? Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, both
Oh, Battlefield 4 today. I've been playing it a lot here recently. It's way better than
Yeah.
what I could have ever dreamed of after it launched.
You can almost bank on when the newest Battlefield game comes out, you can just get the older version of that, and you'll have the best experience.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if they continue to support it, which I think they kind of have to now, since they're doing a season pass for it, and like Premium Deluxe Ultra Mega Alpha Edition, that you know, it's going to have some expansions down the road, and so, you know, maybe they'll release some better game types for it. But yeah, it's just kind of like big old right now.
On the sip scale, it's, you know,
Yeah, it's like
a flat beer.
yeah, like wood tip.
Yeah. Is anything else? You said Majora's Mask. You know, your roommate's been playing it. I've been watching him. Watched him play a little bit of it. And has anything else kind of came out?
No, but the date of recording this, we're on Bloodborne Eve.
Bloodborne Eve.
And let me tell you how badly I wish I had $450 right now to throw on the chopping block for a PS4 in that game, because holy shit! Like, I've only played Dark Souls 2. I can't justify why I haven't played Dark Souls. It is installed on my PC with a character made. And I love Dark Souls 2. And that is by far the weakest of the franchise, according to the Souls community, which I'm just kind of like, well, that's that's some high praise for the other games. And Bloodborne's another game, like, I was trying to not get hyped for, but again, like, any little bit of information I read on that game is just like, everyone's like, yep, it's back. The franchise is back. Like,
It's
if
back,
you're not,
baby.
if you're not too familiar with the Souls franchise, kind of like the brain behind it all, his name's Miyazaki, and he wasn't really a part of Dark Souls 2's development. He was just kind of there, but it now seems to be that he was mostly tied up doing Bloodborne while Dark Souls 2 was going on. So, and a lot of people like to point to that as to why Dark Souls 2 ended up being a lot weaker overall compared to Demon Souls and Dark Souls. But he was completely behind this game, and everyone's like, yeah, it's got that Miyazaki touch to it. Like, plus, fuck me, like, the Victorian setting in that game, like, god damn, like, it looks like a horror game, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to. I was just gonna say, you know, you're so excited, and you've played, you know, this type of game before, and so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, and you got me kind of hyped for it that I bought it, or that I'm gonna, you know, depending on the reviews and stuff, but it's shaping up to be a good game. I'll be picking it up tomorrow and playing it, and I have no idea what I'm getting myself into.
You're going to die a whole lot. A whole lot. Because one of the things about Dark Souls and Demon Souls was, you know, you could, there was various playstyles you could go for, but, you know, kind of like the gateway drug to play those games was sword and board, man. You had your sword and shield ready to go. Ain't got no shields in Bloodborne, so it is all offensive. There's no defense. It is fucking rolling out of the way, doing counterattacks, shooting your blunderbuss to stun enemies mid-attack and then to swing at them. And they've got this really cool mechanic that is unique to Bloodborne, where if you get hit, it'll mark your health bar with a line. And if you counterattack quickly enough, you'll regenerate some of your health instead of taking the full amount of damage. So it encourages aggressive play the entire time. And it's kind of like, that's kind of like the big driving design philosophy within the game, is to be more aggressive, to be a lot faster pace. Like, you're constantly, you know, they talk about how you're constantly being overwhelmed by enemies, And just looking at some of the boss fights, like the bosses are brutally quick in that game.
I watched their like boss trailer or something, and it was pretty insane.
The design of those bosses are just so crazy. The screams that one of those bosses makes is just like, oh man, it just sends chills down my spine. I just want to play it so bad.
I'll check it out and tell you. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to be speaking about. It's a good game. I die a lot. That's what I'm going to say.
And I just, like, I think it's like a weekly thing to bash on Destiny on here.
If we're going to bring that up, spoiler alert, I did play some Destiny this weekend, and I don't know. It's alright. It was Destiny.
Yeah, it's still alright.
It was Destiny. What was your bashing on Destiny? Where are we going to go?
Well, I was just going to say, like, a big complaint about Destiny is, like, the lore of that game has the potential to be pretty awesome, but they do it in just such a fucking backwards way that it makes no sense.
Yeah.
They should really, if they're going to try and obfuscate the lore behind that game to kind of leave you guessing, they should really take a page out of the Souls games, because those games feed you tons and tons of lore in very subtle ways, but never really give you a finite answer to what you're looking at. So there's always some question of, who is Gwen's son, really? Stuff like that. And
see, I don't know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, but if you did, like, it's led to channels, like YouTube channels, springing up that only do Dark Souls stuff. Like you're talking about channels devoted to a single player game, and there's only 3 of them in total, soon to be 4, and that's all they do. And it's where people go because they get all this lore and they sift through it and then make their own decisions, and then they go to these channels to see other people's viewpoints. And I think, if Destiny did it in that way, it would be tremendous. And if they were really smart, Bungie, you would fucking do your lore in that way, and then you would hire some YouTubers to fucking, like, do shit like Epic Name or VodiVidya, because you leave that sense of discussion out there for driving, what are the Destiny characters? Are they guardians? Is that what?
Yeah, you're a guardian. Yeah.
Are you really bad guys? Because that's one of the big debates in Destiny is, are you actually playing as the bad guys? And if they develop lore channels to kind of drive that discussion and keep it, like, relevant, I think it'd be pretty awesome. But they don't, and their lore sucks overall. So.
I mean, it's a weird statement though to say that, like, their lore sucks, because the lore does not suck. The way Bungie presents the lore.
Again, we've talked about it before. I should be able to get all the lore in game,
100%,
and then get the extra bit outside of the game from, like, people's channels, like Epic Name Brew or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
anyways, enough Destiny talk.
Well, hold on. Let's back up for 1 second. I played Crota Inn, which is the newest raid. I played the hard mode last night, and I got a match made. Or no, there's no matchmaking. I went on Reddit r/fireteams and found a group, and it took us 2.5 hours to beat this idiot Crota, because the game bugged out so many times. And, like, you're like, from your point of view and from everyone's point of view, it's going to be like, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. And it is. It's absolutely ridiculous and nonsensical. But, like, my raid group was so kind of laid back and cool. We were just like, hey, man, bad luck. Let's try again. Probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I don't remember your names, but, you're not going to watch this. But it was a fun time. Like, it took us 2 hours. The game just kept, bugging out. But it was a cool raid group, and it was just such a strict comparison. Like, I did one the other day of a normal mode, where hard mode is if you die, you can't be resurrected.
Okay.
Yeah, and so normal mode you can be resurrected by your teammates, and Hard mode, it's a little bit harder enemies and stuff like that, and some other new mechanics. But normal mode, I got match made from our fire teams into a group with like two 15-year-olds. Dude, talking about wanting to murder myself, I wanted to take a knife and cut my throat.
Yeah, I bet that was. No offense to you youngins, but I bet that was.
And they could hold their own, but they were so annoying because it seemed like they had to prove themselves. Like, hey, I'm good. It's like, hey, man, I see it. You got a level of such and such character, and you're holding your own. You don't have to like cuss and try to be like a man. But anyway, enough of Destiny. It was fun. I'm not going to play it for probably until House of Wolves comes out again. I just wanted to make sure I don't lose my touch.
I think I raided in WoW a lot, and there's when you have a good raid group, even if you're failing, it's a good time. You got people in there cracking jokes, and when you beat it, it's like, we stood here that day before that motherfucker, and we beat him. It took us 6 hours, but we did it.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. And I got the Word of Crota, which is like a very sought after weapon.
Nice.
So yeah. All right, that's your Destiny talk for this week.
Yeah, there you go. So, Titanfall 2 was announced.
Yeah, I definitely want to bring that up because we have not very conflicting kind of views of that game, but I bought it on launch and played it. And yes, it was announced this past week that's coming to all consoles, PC, PS4, Xbox One. I don't know if is it going to older gen? I don't
know. I'm not
feel like
sure
that would
about
be a bad decision.
I think going forward, any new IPs on older gen is
but
not a good idea.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar, Titanfall only launched on Xbox and PC last year, and so this Titanfall 2 is going to be now allowed to launch on PS4. So it was good enough. Let me just say what I want to say, and then you can take over.
Sure.
And so we both played the beta, and I liked it enough to buy the game, and you did not. And so I actually went back and played it a couple weeks ago. I think I roughly put about 60 hours into the game, which I think I can give a fair viewpoint, because you can get everything in that game in about 10 to 12 hours. Probably not even that much. And so the core game of Titanfall, the Titans falling, and parkour pilots, which that's what you are as a pilot, parkouring is it's spot on. Phenomenal. It's
I totally agree.
It's fun. But the where the game lacks a lot in my mind is the variety, or the lack thereof, variety of weapons, and I thought that, in my opinion, you only have 3 Titans to choose from, so I think there should be more of those. But a lot of people say just maybe mess with the mechanics of the 3 Titans and make them more diverse. But I like the game, and I am excited for Titanfall 2 to see what they can deliver and what they can expand upon. And so, yeah, what do you want to see? Because you didn't buy the game, so what do you?
No, and I second everything you said. Like, the parkour in that game, as far as a movement system in a FPS, is very refreshing and is sorely needed in more FPSs. Like, I am a Tribes player, and speed and mobility is that game. But where Titanfall really lacks, and you hit on part of it, is like variability. Like, I need more guns, more class types, more different abilities, more Titans. I know they had more maps released after launch, but more fucking of the AI enemy types, like more of the creeps, or whatever you want to call them. Like, need more of those.
Yeah.
They could have done so much that they didn't. I think they're just scared of complexity, which is kind of hilarious.
I think they were introducing enough kind of new stuff. They just really wanted to kind of dumb down the gameplay, or the gun mechanics, and the gun variety.
I get that, but it's like League of Legends is a incredibly complex game, and it is crushing every other game out there, just in the world. And as far as like active player base, like, that game is just magnitudes bigger. And the second biggest other games that are in that same realm, Dota 2, incredibly complex. Here's the Storm, even though it's still in alpha, beta, and whatever technical shit Blizzard wants to call it, even though the game's ready to be released. It's hugely popular. Smite, hugely popular. All games that have a lot of depth and a lot under the hood that, I think we're to the point now where you really need to start taking some more chances, especially with a new. Again, it was a new IP, so I get why they're not trying to go too far. But I think it would have benefited so much. This is what I harp on all the time with Titanfall. When I played that game in beta, I played it for probably 3 hours, and after the 3 hours, I was like, yep, I have completely peaked out in this game. I am as good as I'm going to get at this game, other than a small margin if I play it for another 200 hours, because the depth in that game is just sorely missed. And it's, if you want to call it lack of variety, I think the gun mechanics in that game are just woeful. You just point and shoot for the most part. I mean, they could have done I don't want to say just make tribes, but they more guns that reward you for taking risks and skill shots would have been nice. I mean, they had the cool little pistol that homed in on you, but
no, that should be taken out, because it's, I don't know. But I kind of agree, and maybe more futuristic kind of weapons, because in that game, you have an SMG,
a
shotgun, and a sniper. It's just I don't know, give me something crazy.
Yeah, I'd say the weapons were by far the weakest thing of that game.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't really mind the whole we're going to blend single player multiplayer experience in with the kind of pseudo campaign going on.
Yeah.
But again, that was kind of half-assed in my opinion. That they didn't do enough to justify it being there, and then shoved it down your throat in the process. Trying to make you give a fuck about these AI characters that are sacrificing themselves for you.
Yeah, it was one of the developers, or maybe as a PR guy for Respawn, was in the announcement when they came out, I could not tell you the lore or the story of Titanfall. Could not tell you what's going on in that world. But in one of the PR or a developer was just yeah, we got some interesting places to go with the story, and I think everyone's going to be excited. And I was like, what? I don't even remember anything. I don't know, it's just kind of funny. You bring that up. Why don't you we're going to hone the parkour system, or we're going to add a new set of Titans.
And from a storytelling perspective, what would have been a lot cooler to me is because you had to play through the missions in succession.
Yeah.
From the get go, for me personally, I think it would have been cooler is if you just started hopping into multiplayer games, and instead of giving you this piecemealed linear story, it just gave you bits of story here and there, and you kind of had to tie it all together in for yourself over time.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I mean, even that, I think
is... do more than 9 or 10 missions or however many there were in that game. I know there wasn't a lot.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't a lot. I think maybe 8, maybe 9.
I just overall, just more from that game is what I really think it needs, sorely. And it's not, it's not impossible to release a paid-for multiplayer-only FPS, but it's really goddamn difficult.
It is.
In this market today. I mean, CSGO is probably the most popular paid-for FPS right now, and it's only $15. Yeah. But it has blown up in a huge way. And if you're going to release an FPS that's multiplayer only, $60 for it. Whether or not the cost is justified, it's hard to justify it in the mind of consumers now, because you got TF2 still around. That game's free.
Overwatch, yeah, I think everyone kind of agrees it's going to be free to play.
It's likely. Um, hey, I play Tribes. That was free to play, even though it kind of like died. But
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to kind of bring up was like the community and the player base surrounding Titanfall. Like I played it on launch, and you could find games like super easy.
mm-hmm.
Played it a couple weeks ago, and I mean it was just like barren, except for just like the best Titanfall players.
Yeah. Does it have a server browser, or is it matchmaking only?
It's matchmaking.
See, that's another thing that gotta change. Like, that is just unacceptable on PC.
Yeah, it is. And but I would say like capture the flag. That's a game mode in Titanfall. One of the most fun game types there is to play in any multiplayer game. And I think Titanfall nailed it. And so like,
and you know, like it's the same thing with Tribes. Like capture the flag was kind of like the Tribes game type to play, and it was largely due to the fact that you've got flag carriers and you've got chasers and you've got such a high degree of mobility and speed that it really takes like this old tried and true FPS game type, and just by adding like that high level of speed to it really changes the wow factor of it. Because you got like a flag carrier, he's jumping around, parkouring, jumping off sides of buildings and stuff, and it really like it adds a little wrinkle to it that again like is sorely needed in FPS when all these that are coming out are just so fucking like slow.
Yeah, just bland, like run of the mill, just straight every year FPS games. Yeah, so I mean, I'm excited. I don't, or mildly interested, and I think it's a good year and a half, 2 years off. I just think they just announced it, that it is in development. It's sold well enough that they're gonna make a second one, which I'm glad to see.
That's good. Because again, like I ended up not getting Titanfall. I was mildly excited for it before I played the beta, and then I was like, okay, so this is a fun game. I certainly don't think Titanfall was bad. I just didn't think it was worth my money or my time overall. But again, it does me no good to root for that Titanfall 2 fail.
Yeah, exactly.
I want it to do well, and I hope that they ended up taking a good hard look at a lot of the criticism and feedback they got from the first game and kind of going all out with it, which we'll see.
Yep. I guess like kind of like it's been really slow because it's just like everything came out at GDC and PAX, and so like news and kind of announcements and stuff like that's just been like pretty slow. But probably like the biggest thing to hit since we've done our last one was like Kojima leaving Konami, and so like I think that's pretty big because
people been flipping out over that news.
And so just kind of like from my perspective, I've never played a single Metal Gear Solid. I've not played a single one, and I'm probably gonna play Phantom Pain because it looks pretty sweet, and I have a PS4, and I think it'll come to PC like a year later or something. But it looks pretty sweet, and I might pick it up. But the thing that got me, and I also, another disclaimer, I never played a Silent Hills game or a Silent Hill, but I played the PT, and I'm really excited about Silent Hills, and so like I'm like really concerned about the development of that.
Yeah, that's the one I would be too, because Metal Gear Solid
it's done.
It's pretty much done. You can bet on. So there's not too much left to do other than probably polishing it overall. But who knows where in the development cycle Silent Hills is at right now.
I was.
Now I will say this because Kojima is known to be a fucking giant troll. Like he is well known in the industry for just being a kind of a gotcha person. April 1st.
It's pretty close.
Is April Fool's, and that's the day he's supposed to leave.
Oh, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah. So. Now that said, that is also, he's not supposed to leave. I think it's when it's effective that he's stepping down as an executive at Konami. It marks a certain crucial date in this, April 1st. Now that said, that really doesn't hold much relevance over in the East as much as it does here in the U.S. And it also is the start of their new fiscal year over at Konami, so that would make sense from that point. But I would not be the least bit surprised if they're like, I got you, bitch. But if they are, they're going all out because they've already removed his name and Kojima Studios from like all the box art and all the games. Like Kojima, I don't think the Kojima Studio has a Twitter anymore. Like they pretty much like have axed all connections to that studio at this point,
which is just like insane. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean it just sounds like there's a big like political like tug of war within Konami and Kojima Studios, and Konami just ended up strong arming them overall.
Yeah.
So I would say overall it doesn't look very good. I don't know really what the future entails for Kojima, but I mean, fuck, his business card is a razor blade.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Silent Hills was PT was a lot of fun and terrifying, absolutely horrific, and so I was really looking forward to picking that up at some point. But who knows now? And
yeah, you know, I would. That bums me out too. Like I have no intention of playing the new Silent Hills game when it comes out, but I was really looking forward to watching other people playing that game because I have watched more playthroughs of PT than I care to admit to, because I just I love the mystery behind that demo and just how weird it was, and you know the kind of the ideas they introduce in that game where you literally have like no ability to do anything other than just like push one button and then walk around, and yet there's a surprising amount of depth in there just from like being able to look over like at a wall, and that changes your environment in a certain way or changes the type of event that can occur through another walkthrough from this fucking L-shaped hallway that is the only hell you spend your time in for like 2 hours, which is just it's amazing like what they did with such a small set piece for a free demo, and it will be a real shame if that affects Silent Hills. I hope that Konami and him can nut up and come to some agreement to at least fucking finish that game before they fully cut ties.
I completely agree. I mean, it was a big announcement, came out of nowhere.
It really did come out of nowhere. And it was like one of the biggest news pieces to come out in the last few days, where people were legit like shocked and surprised and pretty upset. It looks really bad for Konami.
It does. It looks very bad. And I'm going to make a very weird transition. April Fool's, or like April 1st, was the day that this takes effect. And one of the worst, or I guess best, April Fool's Day jokes of like kind of entertainment-wise was when HBO announced that Peter Dinklage was going to be replaced by. Do you remember who he was supposed to be replaced by?
It wasn't Vern Troy.
No, but it was another very famous, little man.
Oh, it's the guy that Simon always talks about. I know,
yeah, but I can't remember his goddamn name. But that was one of the best kind of trolls in April Fool's Day jokes was that. So this brings us into the next thing. We're moving away from games.
That was a shaky transition at best.
Very best. Hey, April Fools, you said this like 25 minutes ago. Let me bring it up again. I kind of hinted at it before that we're not just going to be a gaming kind of like podcast, video blog or whatever. We all enjoy, Speff's included, and we might have some other people on, just kind of like general nerd culture in general. And so, as you can probably see back
Warwick
there,
Davis was the
Warwick
guy.
Davis, yeah. Warwick Davis.
You're welcome.
But we both are very big Game of Thrones fans. You can probably tell by the map of Essos and Westeros behind me. But yeah, so there's some news that kind of came out here recently that we've kind of been expecting, is that the show is now going to be spoiling book readers, seeing as that the show is going to surpass the books and they have kind of some inside knowledge. And I just think that is absolutely ridiculous.
It is. It's frustrating, but it was. I mean, just seeing how long it takes him to churn these books out, considering when they started the series and how fast they were moving, it was bound to happen because HBO's got to get that money.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
and it's the biggest non-cable or premium cable show I think there is.
Oh, by far, and it's the most pirated show on the internet as well.
Yeah, I mean,
it's watched by a lot of people, and it is fantastic television.
It's probably one of the best adaptations that you can hope for as a book reader of anything.
I mean, I think we disagree on that, Mark. I still am a little, as someone who read those books before the show was even announced, and then
I did too.
Burned through season 1 when it came out. I was let down as far as a book to show interpretation, but it's still fantastic television to me in that regard. So I still really enjoy the show, and I love the fact that if nothing else, they capture how brutal those books are.
Let me say, I think as far as book casting, I think they do some of the best casting.
Now that I will 100% agree. I think they pretty much are on the mark with pretty much every actor they cast for that role. Maybe like one or two. I think
Robert, the Robert in the show, I didn't really kind of envision as that.
Yeah, I mean here and there
for the
they have some misses, but yeah, they do it better than probably anyone else I've seen for that regard. So it is a bit of a bummer because I will not watch the show now because
they have lost pretty much our whole little inside group of friends that have read the books. That's you, and not that HBO cares, but you've lost about 5 or 6 viewers because we're not going to be watching it.
Yeah, and I mean I would probably say, I don't know for sure, but I'd say the vast majority of people that watch that show have never read the books.
Yeah, I would say, very large.
Or maybe tried to read one of them and they're like, "Fuck, these are long books. I'm just going to watch the show."
Yeah.
So I don't think numbers wise they're going to take a huge hit overall, but I think they've kind of ostracized a certain segment of their viewer base because of this decision, which is unfortunate. And we talked about this a lot too. It's like there's so much that they could do with that world and that setting that isn't written and isn't set in stone because George R.R. Martin hasn't written a book about it. He's only kind of like put like the set piece there and alluded to it, but the actual details of the events isn't really something that's concrete. And they could have a fucking field day with it. And I don't think anyone would be upset. And I mean, it's not like they haven't kind of started to write their own like timeline anyway. It's like everyone's kind of to the point now where we agree like the show is the show and the books are the books, and they're similar, but they also have like kind of like set
broad strokes that are comparable to each other.
Yeah. And they're getting more and more like these details that are just very separate from one another. And so I don't think anyone would be upset if they just went and made like a whole nother, like if they want to do a prequel or just a side story or what, and just completely made their own story within this world. I don't think anyone would be upset. And I think a lot of people who are chomping at the bit for more and more from the Song of Ice and Fire world would fucking love if they just did that.
I mean, just like the first two that come to mind, which you kind of we talked about earlier, is Robert's Rebellion and the Doom of Valeria. Like
either one of those, and there's beyond that, there's just tons and tons of ways they could go with this to where they could, not spoil stuff that is going to happen that we don't know about, and still have plenty of airtime to get their viewers and their ratings.
Yeah, I think that's our biggest thing is like we knew that they would catch up eventually and that the show would probably pass the books because we both know. Well, I mean, we've lived through how GRM George writes. It's a very slow process, a very tedious process. But I think the thing that gets us is now that we have to dodge spoilers. Like we have to make an active.
That's the thing that makes me most upset.
We have to do something actively and avoid spoilers. And that's just something that just like it just pisses me off.
Yeah, like I cannot engage in like conversations about the show now because like my older sister loves that show. She hasn't read a goddamn page out of that series, but she loves every fucking episode of that show. And we used to like have like that'd be like the only time I'd ever call my sister would be to talk about it. And I maybe wouldn't even catch the episode that day, but I'd still talk to her because I knew what was going to happen. And we talked about it. And, it was a great like time to chat and bond on some kind of like nerdy little thing, which we really are kind of two separate beings in that regard. And now I can't do it with her because I don't know what she might say to me that could spoil something.
Yeah, and she won't know that she's spoiling.
And she won't know that she's spoiling it either. She's just trying to talk about this great show that she loves. And so I had to shut down 100% conversation about it.
Never talk to my sister again. It's game over, done.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
See, HBO, you have now just created a divide in my family.
It's gonna rip us apart.
So that kind of bums me out a whole lot. But like I said, it was bound to happen. What was HBO like? Just going to take like a 7-year hiatus on Game of Thrones while I wait for the last 2 books to come out? I mean, those people are aging faster than.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, oh my god, dude, I'm like blanking out right now. But
like Arya is not a child.
Yeah, dude, Arya's gonna be. Arya's gonna be like 18, and Bran's gonna be like 35 when they get done with this.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like, Bran's got more of a mustache than I do.
Because they died in the real world.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of it sucks that we have to actively avoid that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't think we'll be watching it. But what about like I thought of this, and this is very we kind of I think both of us approach most things in a business manner. If HBO were to film the next 2 to 3 seasons with the current actors in their current forms, and simultaneously film a Doom of Valeria or a Robert's Rebellion prequel, but release that first and hold on to the last 3 seasons or so of Game of Thrones. Like I had that kind of suspicion that like maybe is that a viable option? Could like if you was a studio, would you even consider that?
See, I don't know how the paychecks are cut and how all that decision making goes on. I'm just not familiar with how all that stuff's gone up, and I just can't imagine they're going to pay actors in advance for something that they're not going to see any return on for 3 years.
Yeah, and they have to keep their mouth closed for 3 years.
So I just don't see it happening. I as much as it sucks, I can see them completing that series before the last book hits the shelves, which
is probably all but certain.
I mean, because look, it's not even certain that When's the Winter is coming out next year.
Yeah, it's not certain at all. Which
it's seeming likely. There's even like teasing of it coming out this year, which
forget it.
I'm not holding my breath 1 second, but by next year it will be pretty much in line with when that book should be coming out.
So,
But then that's another fucking like 4 to 5 years before the seventh book comes
oh
out.
yeah, and it was just like not even 6 months ago that I read something that he was like, well, 7 books, I might go 8.
Yeah,
I might not be able to complete it.
and again, like this is something we talked about too. Like the state at where it ends in book 5.
Oh, there's like
the way he's going to finish it in two books.
Yeah,
They're going to be 20,000 pages apiece.
Yeah, and and I think we both agree that I don't care how long it takes you to finish it. We want you to write the story that you want to write. But,
now, I have had this thought about this. What I wonder what the reaction would be if he started to release like smaller versions of these books. So instead of releasing the Winds of Winter, he released Winds of Winter Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. So like shorter 200 to 300 page books. So he's getting them out faster in a sense. So people are getting to digest it a little quicker. Maybe they don't get as much as they want, but they're still getting them in a more timely fashion. It gets people off his nuts about, well, you're going to fucking finish these books before you kick the back bucket. And, HBO can continue to develop these shows and have less worry of spoiling stuff.
I actually think I never thought about that. I think that's a great idea because, one, from a fan of the series, I'm going to be able to read it quicker. And from a business perspective, I think Bantam is the one that publishes those books. You're looking at, obviously, what do those books sell for? $14.99, $19.99 for a hardcover?
Oh shit, the hardcover's like $30 probably.
So but you can probably sell these individual parts for $14.99 to something like. So you're probably doubling your money intake, and as you said, get these people off your nuts if you're GRM. And so, I think that's actually a pretty solid idea. I don't think that's the way he wants to present it, so he probably won't do that.
I don't think he does either.
But I think I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love having like that giant book in front of me and just like basking in its glory and just being like, all right, well, this 1,000 pages are going to change my life. But if it was just 200 pages. I wouldn't be upset. Again, I am also. It's such a fucking. It sucks so much. My two favorite series of books out there are both not finished. Like 1 and 2. Like the Dresden Files is 1. This series is number 2, and who knows where they'll end up when everything's finished. Hopefully. But the Dresden Files, there's like fucking 15 of those books, but they're very like short, choppy books, like
200 to 300 pages.
They've started to grow a little bit as kind of Jim Butcher's kind of hit his writing stride with them, but they're still like pretty pulpy, like quick to the point books, and they're fun read. I can finish one in like 2 to 3 days, depending on how immersed I am in it and how much time I have on my hands. And if he started to do kind of a more format like that, I would be totally okay with it. Personally,
I'm on board with you. Yeah, it's our little.
You hear that, George? I hope you're watching this.
George, if you're watching this, I'll suck your dick for the Winds of Winter to come out.
I love you a lot.
Yeah,
George.
I do too. I like you.
So,
well, I guess that's. Is anything else on tap that we want to talk about?
Oh Christ, I have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I think I did forget that City Skylines. I think that came out in our hiatus, and
it did.
And so that looks very fun.
As two SimCity players who were very disappointed with SimCity overall, even though I did still have fun with
it was okay, but
but it was another one.
This looks like the SimCity that was promised.
And that's been like across the board reaction to it. So I will be getting that game at some point, and I will not be heard from for several weeks when I get it, because those games are...
And the mod support is amazing, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Again, like, another thing, SimCity really needed was modding,
Yeah.
and we didn't get it.
So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps number 2. Hopefully you enjoyed the 2-person interaction, because one of our friends is a goddamn jackass and didn't want to join.
He's dead.
He's dead. Yeah.
Smeth's is dead in case anyone's.
Yeah. So R.I.P. Rip. You know, Speffs.
I mean, I'm not upset.
He's one of our best friends, but we knew this day was coming.
Oh my gosh. Done night vision? We can't see. Don't get sassy. This ain't the time.